Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and thank you for being with me until the end of the line. The final episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier is here, and throughout this video we're going to be breaking down the Easter eggs, things you missed, and giving our review of the entire series. We're also going to be talking about what could be coming next in the MCU, so make sure you stick around until the end. Full spoilers ahead, so if you don't want anything ruined, then I recommend that you turn off now. Huge thank you for getting last week's video trending, and please click the thumbs up for the final time if you've enjoyed the coverage. With that out of the way, you're the best, now let's get into Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Okay, so last time we picked up with John Walker, Texas Ranger, and the aftermath of murdering a flag smasher. The death of his best friend Battlestar had pushed him to the brink, and thus Sam and Bucky decided to do what most people would do, which is take him somewhere quiet and kick the crap out of him. Walker was stripped of the mantle, however he was contacted by Valentina Allegra de la Fontaine, who we now know will also be featuring in the upcoming movie Black Widow. Walker visited Battlestar's family, and even though the episode was called The Truth, he lied to them and told them that the perpetrator responsible for his death had been brought to justice. This is something that's important to remember for this entry, hence why I'm mentioning it up top. Elsewhere, Sam decided to become Captain America, and with his wings left behind, it looks like Joaquin Torres is waiting in the wings to pick up the pieces, eh? We ended with the Flag Smashers storming the GRC as they voted on the Patch Act, and I can't believe that I missed last time that this is the bench which Sam Jackson and Bruce Willis opened their own suitcase at in Die Hard with a Vengeance. The episode culminated with cosplay Cap making a brand new shield, and Falcon opening up a suitcase, much like Pulp Fiction with What is that? Is that what? Oh, sorry, wrong show. Now, episode 6 is called One World, One People, the mantra of the Flag Smashers. However, it's also a song by Femi Kuti. In it, he puts across the point that black people, Nigerians especially, have been held back by corrupt governments and politicians, but that there is still hope that people will rise up against these forces. It offers a shining light in these dark times, which is something that I think Sam definitely becomes in this entry. We open with the Flag Smashers forming their attack, while Sam and Bucky head towards the GRC. Along the way, Sharon appears in disguise, donning the same high-tech facial prosthetics that Black Widow did in the Winter Soldier. This speaks to her two-faced persona throughout the series and the eventual reveal that comes in the middle of the episode. Turns out that the Flag Smashers were waiting for Sam's arrival, and they gas the vote meeting before he swoops in, donning the Wakandan wings, suit and shield. This feels like it was ripped straight out of the Sam Wilson Captain America run, and it's an amazing looking costume that feels so good getting introduced in this hero moment. He tells people he's Captain America, and we get a repeat of the hilarious conspiracy theory from episode 1, which says that Captain America is on the moon. Now, whilst I thought this was mental, judging by some of the reveals that come later on, maybe it's true. Now, before we can appreciate it, Batroc arrives and the pair face off in a moment that echoes the opening of the Winter Soldier. Turns out Carly wants the GRC to evacuate rather than remaining inside, and she actually tries to bargain with Bucky at one point. Bucky mentions that he's fought for something bigger than himself and failed twice, which I'm guessing might be Civil War and Infinity War, but let me know below if you disagree. He tells Carly to do one, and we realise that she was simply buying time to enact her own plans. In the car park, he steals a bike, and Sharon sticks an explosive made of mercury vapor on a flag smasher named Lennox. You know, for someone who seems like they want super soldiers so they can protect them back home, definitely doesn't seem that way. Now, throughout this season, one of my big criticisms has been that most of Sam's fights have been on the ground. Outside of the first episode, he's been down to earth in order to allow Bucky to do things, but having him get to take to the skies to chase a helicopter is absolutely incredible. I love how he throws the shield to smash a window and then jumps out in order to catch it. He also uses Red Wing to scan for a pilot, and even his wings as cover later on. With this happening publicly, it allows the world to see firsthand that he deserves the mantle, and hearing people cheer in this moment was a really nice touch. Now, the following action scene in the street has many callbacks to other works. Firstly, the fight between Bucky and the Flag Smasher is a reflection of the one that he had with Steve at the midpoint of the Winter Soldier. Several of the moves are repeated here, and in addition to this, John Walker arrives. This massively echoes when the character showed up in Sam Wilson Captain America, and he fought Sam in the middle of the street. In the comics, he was US agent at this point, and he was there to publicly humiliate Sam so that people would lose faith in him. Now, whilst that isn't really the case here, Walker is trying to make it so that people believe he's still Captain America, but when his DIY shield gets kicked out of the way, it goes down worse than Demi Lovato at the Big Chill frozen yogurt shop. Yikes. Now, because it's not made of vibranium, it's nowhere near as effective, and the character gets triggered when Carly says that Lamar's life didn't matter. Well, it mattered to me. Now, throughout the last episode, we watched as Walker was haunted by visions of him. Shoutouts to Ryan Airy at Screen Thrush for pointing out that Walker would talk out loud to his parents in the comics, even though they were gone. In the source material, them getting murdered was what drove him to be crazy, and though they changed it up to Lamar in this, I do appreciate the callback. Sam hits up a woman to ride his chopper, but instead of laying the pipe lays him. We really need some better writers here. Now, it might be a reach, but this moment reminded me of Tony escaping his destroyed home in Iron Man 3, and it shows just how well equipped Sam now is. He's pretty much a combination of both Iron Man and Captain America at this point, and could easily fill the void that the pair have left after Endgame. Sam's plan of swapping the pilot out works, and the battle with the Flag Smashers continues with Carly trying to crash the truck containing the GRC into a construction site. The music echoes the ending of Civil War, and when all hope seems lost, Sam comes in and saves the day. An onlooker calls him the Black Falcon, which is of course what he was referred to when he went to visit Isaiah. However, this is corrected to Captain America, showing that the public now believe he has the persona. The Flag Smashers flee to the basement of the site, and Carly runs into Sharon. Here we learn it was Sharon Carter all along who was the power broker, and it was the most obvious thing, and I'm not really sure how I feel about it in all honesty. Firstly, there are a lot of contradictions in it, and we know from Zemo that he knew the character before the events of Civil War. He also called the power broker a he, and Sharon was Agent 13 at this point and wasn't exiled, so it doesn't really line up. She's also had numerous points in the series where she could have killed Carly, but for some reason didn't. Now, as for Sharon Carter, she's someone whose comic roots I haven't really touched upon, but she's got a great history I think we should go over so we can see how it lines up with the show version. Born in Virginia to parents Harrison and Amanda Carter, Sharon was the niece to Margaret, aka Peggy. Peggy suffered shell shock in the war and was nursed back to health by the family, and Sharon would sit at her bedside while she recounted stories from her life. This inspired Sharon to become an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and after gaining the moniker of Agent 13, she was sent on several missions. It seemed that Sharon picked up a lot of her aunt's talents, and she quickly became one of the company's best agents. Interestingly, in the comics, Sharon and Batroc actually went head to head on a mission at one point, which too involved Steve. Steve recognized the resemblance to Peggy, but didn't put two and two together until much later down the line, when he was a bit, he might be crossing the line here a bit. Now, over the years, they crossed paths and became lovers. Carter eventually joined the Femme Force, which was led by Valentina, who has of course appeared in the series. Carter spent some years in retirement with Steve, but she was called back to duty and S.H.I.E.L.D. faked her death. When she was dropped behind enemy lines, however, the agency believed that she had been killed. I think it was a clerical error, and she was abandoned, which led to her working with several villains. I think this is meant to mirror her being on the run for breaking the Sokovia Accords, and because of this, Sharon grew a lot of hate towards S.H.I.E.L.D. She even became an agent of the Red Skull, and it definitely reflects her journey throughout Madripoor. She was wanted for treason, but after some time travel shenanigans to World War II, she managed to make things right by speaking with Nick Fury. In the present, she became a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent once more and helped to head up the investigation against the Winter Soldier. Over the years, she's had a very interesting story and was even a cog in the death of Captain America, delivering one of the killing blows to him. She was brainwashed, to be fair, which is something that they do a lot in comic books. For me, I think the twist was staring us in the face so much that I actually ruled it out, and I will take the L for this, but I think when we go back and watch the MCU that it won't quite line up. She put herself in harm's way at several points, and also let Sam, Bucky and Zemo go and interrogate her golden goose. Her plan was to help the Flag Smashers and make them come back to her, but also not help them, and yeah, weird. It might just be being salty because I'm taking the L, but either way, that's the reveal. And at least I didn't ride the Zola train like some of you suckers. Hey, you suck. No, I'm just kidding, I love you. Now, Sharon kills Batroc and Sam and Carly go head to head, whilst Bucky and Walker use the Flag Smasher app to discover the location of those escaping. Sam faces his first one-on-one battle against a super soldier, and initially he refuses to fight back. Sharon ends up shooting Carly, and we see her grip the Hamza, a symbol that she's carried throughout. This means protection from the evil eye, And as the power broker has appeared as eyes throughout the season, it's a nice symbolic gesture. Sam swoops in with her body in a moment that plays upon the painting of Cain and Abel, something that too was echoed in Arkham City. His enemy has fallen, but clearly Sam feels regret over it, and he makes sure that the Flag Smashers aren't referred to as terrorists. All labels do is stop people from emphasizing, and Sam says that they all have one unified struggle now that they can unite under. The GRC have erased half of the planet, much in the same way that Thanos did, and because of this, the world is still divided. This plays out to the public, much in the same way that Sam's uprising in his comic run did. This is watched by Isaiah, as well as his grandson Eli, who in the comics becomes a hero known as Patriot. Sam's speech shows Isaiah that perhaps the world has changed, and the character finally breathes a sigh of relief. It's a very inspiring speech of him speaking to the world leaders who could make changes but refuse to, and though it is very, very heavy-handed, its heart's in the right place. It's clearly discussing how people who make the decisions are rarely affected by them, and thus it's easy to cast people to the side. This was the moment I felt the character really became Captain America, and sure, the action scenes were cool, but it's the beliefs and morals that really make him who he is. Walker even gives him a nod of approval, and Bucky calls him Cap. With everyone who knows Sharon as the power broker dead, she's able to go back into American society, and Sam takes to the skies in order to help out. We see the Flag Smashers being transported to the raft, but they're destroyed by Zemo's butler, fully carrying out his plan. At the prison, Zemo overhears this on the radio, and we see him in a cell from Civil War. Cut to Valentina and Olivia as we watch US Agent being unveiled. Val, so sorry I shouldn't call her that, says things are gonna get weird and that they're not gonna need Captain America for that, they're gonna need a US agent. This is clearly hinting towards her setting up the Thunderbolts and the fact that Walker will be used more as law enforcement rather than someone who stands for beliefs and values. Walker's just happy to be back, but whether he's learned the lessons he should have or not remains to be seen. I really thought that the whole thing with Battlestar's family was going to go somewhere, but it doesn't, which is a shame as it seemed like they were setting it up, but it's just left on the cutting room floor. I might be reaching here, but I very much saw John Walker lying about killing the Flag Smasher as a comment on the Iraq War. Now what I mean by that, and stop shaking your head, is that we were originally told there were WMDs in the country, but over time this narrative proved to be false, and it changed to us being that we were simply removing a vicious dictator. The justification for the action changed, and we instantly knew that this guy wasn't behind Battlestar's death, but he was still killed and then put forth as the reason for why Walker acted the way that he did. Clearly, this didn't sit right with some people, aka Lamar's sister. Whether this was included and then forgotten about as a metaphor for that, we don't know, but yeah, very strange to have it even teased at. Back home, Bucky goes to Mr. Nakajima, and a repeat of the scene from the first episode very much plays out, but this time Bucky goes inside. It's absolutely beautiful and so well acted, and even though I'm the hardest YouTuber about, I might have teared up a bit over this. Now, as Sam said in episode 5, Bucky wasn't making amends, he was just avenging. He needed to provide a service, closure to people who didn't have it, and this is very much what happens in this moment. Bucky finally puts the lid on the Winter Soldier, and he leaves a gift for his therapist which contains the Book of Names, showing that he won't need it anymore. Sam then visits Isaiah, and we learn that the GRC have stood down when it comes to the Patch Act. Sam knows what he's gonna do, and he takes Isaiah to the Smithsonian, which is where that we see that a monument to him has been added. This was a highly emotional moment, and showed that he hadn't been forgotten about. I actually got a lot of flashes of Doctor Who here, namely the scene in which Doc took Vincent van Gogh to visit an exhibit for his artwork. Back home, Sam and the community come together for a party on the docks beside the boat. Now, huge shout outs to Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin at the Fat Man Beyond podcast for pointing out that the boat is very much a metaphor for the Shield. Just bear with me. Now, initially the boat was something that he and his family wrestled with getting rid of. They thought that it was their responsibility, but they didn't really want it. However, in the end they ended up calling the community together in order to fix it up. This represents how the Shield has had a lot of people that have helped to build the legacy of it. The Shield has a long and very complicated one, but Sam tried with both the boat and Shield to take the rotten things out of it and make something new. It's their own ship of Theseus in many ways, and it's also Mephisto. Now, Mark Bernardin stated that we know the Shield and boat aren't perfect, but that if we come together and work towards fixing it, it can stand for a symbol of greatness again. Heck, they even wanted to rename the boat, but in the end decided that it was part of their history and thus went against it. I love this idea, and it's something that I missed last time, so I just thought that I'd bring it up here. The show ends with the title screen Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and we cut to the post-credits scene to see Sharon getting a pardon. Now shout out to Juan Chirinos for messaging me on Twitter to say that this will likely lead into Armor Wars, as it seems like Sharon will now have access to everything. This includes the Stark Iron Man tech, which could lead to her creating lots of duplicates. Now she clearly has another person involved with her on the other end of the phone. In the comics, Power Broker Inc. was actually made up of 2 people, and it is possible that the person on the other end is also part of it. Now sometimes they put subtitles in place so you can see who characters are talking to, but here, sadly, that isn't the case. If I had to guess, I would imagine that it was either Valentina or General Ross, or perhaps someone even worse. This would allow for the Power Broker comments from Zemo to still remain in place, meaning that he could be a male and also someone that he knew before Civil War. Either way, I think they're definitely setting up Armor Wars and the Thunderbolts, and potentially even a Nomad series, which Charles Murphy has said is in development with Bucky. Sharon infiltrating the government with her own shadowy organisation is of course a mirror of the way that Hydra did it to S.H.I.E.L.D., and again, it's like poetry, they rhyme. It might even be the case that Madame Hydra has hired her, and after the events of Ant-Man they've managed to replicate Cross's pin particles and start up all over again. This would mean that Hydra is back in full force if I'm right, but let me know below if you disagree. Now as for my thoughts on the series as a whole, I know I've kind of gone back and forth over it, but I did really enjoy it in the end. I actually binged watched the entire thing back to back through the week, and there was just so much in it that, yeah, in hindsight, it works really well. Marvel always excels when it comes to action, and the presentation and production quality of the series makes it something special. This felt movie level throughout, and to have almost 6 hours of something this quality is a testament to how much time and effort that Disney are pouring into their shows. Now one of the big questions that people likely have is whether I preferred this to WandaVision or not. What do you mean you don't care? Well, I'm going to tell you anyway, and I'm going to say something controversial in that I actually preferred this over WandaVision. Though it didn't have as many talking points throughout, I think a lot of my enjoyment with that show came from my own speculation and constant pointing at people saying that they were Mephisto. It made it far more engaging, but when we look at things after the fact, I feel that in terms of story and substance, that Falcon and the Winter Soldier just beats it by a hair. However, if you liked WandaVision, then that's cool. I can totally see things from your point of view and I won't hold it against you, but get the hell out of here. Now as for the TFATWS, with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think that knowing there was a big storyline involving a virus that was cut, you can start to see the holes in certain parts of the series. Originally, the series was going to have a man-made virus which was unleashed by the GRC to kill some of the refugees, and this is what Nagel was tasked with curing by Carly. It also explains the vaccines that were being stolen and loaded onto a plane, as well as Mama Donya's death. Due to the pandemic, Marvel decided to cut it, but because of this, I think that it's more difficult to relate to the Flag Smasher's plea. Carly still didn't really give me that sense of why so many people would follow her and lay down their lives in order to enact her plans, and at this point I'm hoping that we do get an extended version of the series that shines her in a new light. As for John Walker, a lot of you got angry last time when I said that he was probably the best character. I was even called a typical white dude, which, being brown haired, plain faced YouTuber, I'm utterly appalled at. What do you mean there's about 7,000 of us? Oh, fair enough. Anyway, I should rephrase that and say that it's probably the best performance, and Wyatt Russell has gone from someone who's received death threats over his portrayal, which, though pretty crap, also shows just how good of a job he did as the new Cap. But also, yeah, don't send death threats to actors, you moron. Now, leading the series was of course Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan. Both have been doing these roles for years now, and it's at the point where, much in the same way that I'll always think of Robert Downey Jr. when I picture Iron Man, the pair will forever feel like the perfect casting for their characters. It would be difficult to replace them, and though we've had things like Walker's Arc and the Flag Smashers thrust to the forefront of the series, the real story was Sam accepting the role that Steve gave him, whilst Bucky learned to forgive himself for his past. It was really well laced throughout this show, and though often put on the back burner, watching the pair uncover the truth about the serum was a thrilling mystery that I wanted to see them get to the bottom of. Now as for Zemo, Daniel Brühl killed it, and I can't wait to see him more in the MCU. The first time I watched Civil War, I was kinda meh on his understated performance, and though over the years I've come to accept that what he did was brilliant, this added way more dynamism to him. The dancing was amazing, and he was probably the funnest character to be around in this series. Similar to Zemo, Sharon Carter really got a lot more of an expanded role. She was someone who, in Winter Soldier and Civil War, was just a bit meh, and I tell you, down B&M Bargains, which is where I tend to buy my Funko Pops, they had piles and piles of Civil War Sharon ones that were on sale for about £2, as they couldn't get rid of them. However, this series made her someone very important, and I'm glad they've managed to do something interesting with her. Now, it's because of reasons like that I preferred it to WandaVision, but obviously let me know below if you disagree. Overall though, I think it was an excellent show, and I can't wait to see these characters back in the MCU. Now going forward, we have a lot lined up, and on June the 11th we will be getting Loki. This 6-episode series is set to follow the version from Endgame as he goes through the multiverse meeting alternate versions of himself whilst he tries to save everything from collapsing. On July 11th we have the release of Black Widow finally, What If is as of this recording debuting over the summer, Shang-Chi is in September along with Venom Let There Be Carnage, The Eternals is in November, Hawkeye is in the latter part of the year, as is apparently Ms. Marvel, and we close out with Spider-Man No Way Home on December 17th. So it feels like we're just getting started on what is one of the best times to be a Marvel fan ever, and I can't wait to see what's around the corner. We're going to be back with Mariah Carey at some point to discuss the series, so definitely keep an eye out for that video next week. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and the show as a whole. As a thank you for interacting with the video, you'll be entered into a prize drawn the 30th of April, in which we're giving away 3 copies of Zack Snyder's Justice League in 4K. All you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the show. The winners of last month's competition are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at HeavySpoilers. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of all the news on Spider-Man No Way Home that we have so far, which will be linked on screen right now. Alfred Molina dropped a big interview with Variety last week discussing how he's going to be returning, and we've just gone over all the leaks on top of that to give you a video that's worth watching. With that out of the way, thank you for sticking through this. I've been Paul, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Thank you for all the support. Have a great weekend.